for staying with us. It's still Rapid Done right here on Rapid TV. And we have had an amazing morning trying to keep you informed, educated, and updated on political, social, and economic matters of Nigeria. And now at the 9 o'clock hour, where we usually will have the big conversations, like we said from the start of the hour, we are having this conversation today. Are you ready?
Oh, very much ready. You know, very interesting that we need to talk about this situation because it does affect us as a nation, of course, and as a country, talking about the students and, of course, education as a whole. You know.
All right. And now that you've mentioned education, so education remains one of the strongest equalizers of opportunity in any nation and in a country like Nigeria, where millions of people struggle daily with access to affordable higher education. Now, conversations around educational financing are not just important, they're also very urgent. So since its establishment in 2023, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, Nelfund, has continued to take strategic steps towards easing the burden of tuition and bridging financial inequality and driving human capital development. From partnerships with state governments to institutional visits, stakeholder engagement, and digital expansion. Now, the fund seems to be positioning itself as a lifeline for many students who might otherwise have been left behind. But how far have we come? Which, of course, is the basis of the conversation today. How transparent and accessible is the process? And more importantly, what is the sustainability plan for the years ahead? And joining me this morning for the second time on Rapid Done, by the way, is the Managing Director, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Martha. It's good to be back here today.
Good to have you here again.
Thank you.
Good morning to you once again, sir.
Good morning, Victor.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
All right. Now, seeing as we have had conversations before now on Nelfund, and we're fully aware that the first cycle is over and you're starting off with the second cycle, which is 2025-2026. So let's ask, how has the first cycle, or how was the first cycle, and what plans do you have to make sure that the second cycle goes off pretty well?
Excellent. Thank you very much. I think the first session or the first cycle of this scheme went very, very well. Okay. We launched on the 24th of May, 2024. There was a lot of apprehension, even on our side. We were concerned about whether the platform would hold out. We didn't know how much demand there was out there, whether we would be able to capture adequately the right sorts of people that we want to give these opportunities to. We were also really concerned about the level of skepticism. Okay. There were a couple of delays in launching the scheme, and of course there was a lot of commentary about it's not real, it's a scam, it's this and that, which is understandable given the track record of administrations of the past making promises that hadn't been kept. Sometimes not even for the fault of the administration itself, but there was a lot of skepticism, and we believe that given all of those issues, the actual first cycle of this went extremely well. We're really delighted, we're really proud, and we're really thankful to the administration for giving this to the people.
Absolutely.
Looking at how far Nelfund has come, it's been a few months of highs, hiccups, and possibly headlines for Nelfund. Now looking at all of the things you've done so far, talking about disbursement, portal reopenings, and certain probes that Nelfund has been through this season. Let's start easy with you. How would you describe Nelfund's journey so far?
So I would describe the journey as being fairly tumultuous. It's been fairly stormy. Those of us who are behind the scenes see all the issues. We see quite a lot of the problems. We started midway through the session, so we were trying to capture those who are already enrolled and studying in institutions. That gave us a few headaches, a few hiccups. We had challenges with fintech banks because somehow we couldn't pay them. And this, of course, caused some distress for these students who are desperately seeking this lifeline. We've also had, as you say, probes, but I wouldn't see the probes as being negative. I think it's important when you're doing this sort of activity that you continue to probe, you continue to ask questions, you continue to see whether or not people are being truthful. Our job was to deliver the funds to those who it really needed to get to. I think largely speaking, we've done that. A few technical hitches here and there. It's been a learning process for us at Nelfund. It's been very much a learning process because there's no way, in launching a scheme that hadn't existed before, that you would be able to anticipate everything. It's been tumultuous, it's been stormy, but overall, We are really pleased that we're moving into the second cycle, and we wouldn't be able to move into the second cycle if we were bogged down with issues in the first one. We're really excited.
That's right. Well, let's get back to August. August this year, where according to reports, over 86 million naira has been given, to students. Basically,
did you say million?
Billion.
Billion naira. 86 billion naira has been disbursed to students.
Yeah.
Now, this is October 2025. How much of that money has now been given to students in addition? Okay,
so of the monies that we've received, we have disbursed to beneficiaries 116 billion naira.
In total?
In total, yes. Now, if you want me to break that down, which I will, 65 billion has gone to institutions on behalf of the students who applied. 51 billion has gone as upkeep. By upkeep, I mean monthly stipends to individual students directly to the bank accounts. The 65 billion that's gone to the institutions on behalf of the students has gone to the accounts of the institutions.
Now, how much is the money allocated to Nelfund? Because we're seeing that you're calling figures on billions. How much is allocated to Nelfund on a yearly basis to disburse to students yearly? Or do you just work on as many students that are available?
So far, we have received, I think, about 243, 200 or thereabouts billion from TET Fund. Okay. We've also received 50 billion from the EFCC. So we've received quite a bit of intervention funding, if I could call it that. The act that set us up actually said that we would be getting 1% of FIRS, tax collections due to the Federation account. There's been a review of that because now we're actually going to be getting funding from the the tax reforms has come up with a new formula where we're going to receive 15% or so from the development levy. So it's changed a little bit. Those figures are percentage based. So I can't give you a figure that we're going to get because it depends on the collections, it depends on what taxes are paid. It's important to remember though that this program is one of those demonstrable programs that shows that taxes work. If you pay your taxes, they will be deployed to the right place. That's what we're doing with Nelfund, trying to encourage people to see that government performs in terms of the deployment of funds that is raised from taxation. The President is very keen that we continue to demonstrate fairness, openness and transparency. And President Tinubu has backed this fully. So I don't think that we're going to be running out of funds anytime soon.
Absolutely. All right, let's see what the dashboard is looking like. Let's have that displayed on the screen, because when I took a look at what the dashboard was looking like, exactly that.
Yes.
Now we see that applications up there, beneficiaries up there, and then total number of successful applications. Can you help us explain how to interpret what the dashboard looks like?
Thank you very much. And I think it's important because this dashboard goes out daily.
Absolutely.
And not everybody would have a full grasp of what's going on there. So if you look in the top left-hand corner where it says applications, 929,805 applications have been made to us. Now, I need to be very clear on this. That's not the number of people. That's the number of applications. So there's some duplication in there. There are people who've applied for one session and have applied for the second session. So let's be clear, let's be honest. That's not the number of individuals. There are some duplicated applications in there. And we count applications for institutional fees and upkeep separately. So you can see that there can be some duplication in there. In the right-hand corner where it's headed beneficiaries, 624,535 people have benefited from the loan scheme. So 624,000 plus people have actually benefited from the loan scheme. If you look just below that, it gives a figure of 12,398. That's the number, that's the difference between the number of people who applied yesterday or the total we had from yesterday for this new session.
So that's a daily
uplift, yes. So in the last 24 hours, 12,398 people have applied for the loan for this new session.
All right. So now I'm looking at these numbers because I was going to ask why there's such a huge disparity between the number of people that have applied and the number of people that have benefited from the scheme. Now that you have made mention of the fact that that's duplicate, regardless of that fact, it's still like quite a gap. Now, aside the fact that that's a gap, You made mention of the fact the last time we were here that Nelfund was experiencing some sort of difficulty, especially when it comes to processing these loans on time. Because just like you said, some students apply now, they don't get the loans. And after the session, they have already paid their fees, by the way. They reapply for those loans yet again. Why this gap? Why are we still experiencing this gap? Because it is assumed that after the first cycle, you have observed some of the challenges that Nelfund faces, and in the second cycle, you want to implement that change that you have experienced from the challenges you have gathered from the first cycle. So why are we still experiencing this huge gap?
Thank you so much. That's such a lovely question. Look, applications are not processed instantaneously. Mm-hmm. You will always have more applications than you will have approvals and beneficiaries. Okay. That gap will always exist. As you and I have been sitting here today, somewhere in the region, I would think of 1,000 students have applied just this morning. Now, there's no way that those 1,000 students can be beneficiaries instantly. It's not possible. We need to verify, we need to check, we need to make sure that it's approved on our side, we need to make sure that it's approved on the side of the institution. Okay. So that gap will always exist. There will always be more applications than beneficiaries. It will never go away. It's not an instant loan. We have verification to carry out. So going back to what you were saying about the process and the hitches that we've had. So the way the process worked in the past, or in the immediate past, should I say, we would receive applications randomly from all over the country, from different people at different institutions. We would process those. We would determine who's applied from which institution. We would collate them. If I use the University of Uyo as an example, we'd collate from the 12,000 applications we've received, 700, for example, from the University of Uyo, but we'd have to extract that from the total list. We'd collate that list. Once we've verified, checked, and approved, we would then send that list to the institution. Are these really your students? Can you confirm that they are attending your institution? Remember, we never meet the students. So this verification step is extremely important. The institution takes ownership of the students that we are asking them to confirm. We're also asking them in that process to confirm the fees, the courses, the course level, and a number of other things, the JAM number, the matriculation number, and all of those things. Some institutions react very quickly. They react very quickly. Other institutions react more slowly. This can be for a variety of reasons. It may be because the person in charge is on leave. It may be because they're not as quick. When we don't all work at the same pace. But until we receive that verified list back, we do not even attempt to disperse.
So are you saying that peradventure Nelfund experiences any sort of lag in the disbursement of the funds, the institutions also share part of the blame?
I don't like to use the word blame. I think everybody's working to get this done properly. We're not playing the blame game. What I'm saying to you is that we've had challenges. No two people work at the same pace. However, something has changed. We've introduced some new technology now. So rather than wait for the batch to be sent to the institution, it can be done instantaneously. So as we approve on our side, it instantaneously goes to the portal of the school, and the school can approve literally one student at a time on a daily basis. So we've got technology that is more instantaneous. But of course, that doesn't mean that there won't be other delays, because when it comes back to us, we check again. We check the fees, we make sure that what the school has approved is indeed what we've sent to them, that they've not made any alterations inadvertently to what we've asked, like on the fees, for example. Sometimes, we will see a fee for, let's say, 60,000 naira. We put it to the school because that's what they've listed. It comes back as 65,000 naira. There's 5,000 naira difference. We have to then correct that. So we're not entirely dependent on technology. We still have to eyeball and make sure that what we're doing is the correct thing.
Okay. I'd always make a reference to the past interview that we've had, because that's what is setting the precedent for this right now. So the last time we had a conversation, you made mention of the fact that there was an outreach you wanted to do for rural communities and to institutions, which is basically like a rally, if I get that correctly, a rally to these schools to sensitize people about, taking Nelfund loans. As a matter of fact, we have videos which we will eventually play. Which will also bring about other questions. But how far has that rally gone, and what has been the response so far from the institutions and the people that you have been able to sensitize on Nelfund's activities?
Okay, thank you very much. I have to give credit to the National Association of Nigerian Students. They were our first partners. When we took this on and went on a roadshow, we needed to assemble students at institutions to go and talk to them about this. We've been round to virtually every single state in Nigeria, bar one or two. We've visited universities, we've visited polytechnics, we've visited colleges of education, we've visited federal institutions, we've visited state-owned institutions, where we first of all start with a briefing for the school management, and then we go to a hall where the students are generally gathered. So anything from 300 to 2,000 students might be in a room, and then we would effectively present our case to encourage them to take the loan if they need it. That's what's driven the numbers that you were showing earlier. Direct communication with students, direct education of students about how the process works. Now, we recognize that the next phase of this, and I think you were referring back to the previous conversation we had about rural communities. We've always known that once we get students enthused and understanding how this works, we must get to the parents. We must get to the parents for two reasons. One, so that they can encourage their children to apply for it if they think it's the right thing for them. Secondly, so that they can encourage the children or their children who are perhaps in secondary school, that actually there is an opportunity for them to go on to get a tertiary education. So we must educate the parents. We must educate the parents about what this is all about. There's a lot of misinformation. Generally, that's the sort of society that we are in. Lots of talk, lots of social media posts that aren't necessarily accurate. So we must educate the parents, we must educate the students about what the prospects are, what does this look like. We must address their fears, because when people are taking loans, there are certain fears. So we have engaged with local government chairmen and chairwomen of recent. We're setting up programs for us to go and talk to the communities. Where, in the last 2 weeks, I presented in front of the First Class Traditional Rulers Council in Nigeria the case for Nelfund, and we're starting to engage with traditional rulers because they're really the custodians of the community. They are a big and important step in helping us get to the people in the rural communities. And generally, the doors of the palace are always open. Unfortunately, the doors of government isn't always open. So we need to engage with them, we need to go out, we need to talk to people, we need to sensitize people, we need to educate people. And we need to encourage people that education is really, as the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, always says, it's the greatest weapon we can use to fight poverty. We're going to fight to make sure that that weapon goes to everybody.
All right. Earlier, you talked about the usage of technology. Well, let's talk about some of the irregularities that we've also seen happen. First of all, have you experienced ghost beneficiaries since you started disbursing funds from Nelfund?
Victor, that's a good question. Ghost beneficiaries. Okay, let me quickly explain something to you. We never meet these people, okay? However, everybody who applies for this loan must have an NIN. They must have a BVN.
Okay.
Obviously, they have a name and a date of birth. They must have a matriculation number or an admission number. They must have a BVN, so they must be banked. If anybody has all of these 5 verification points and a JAM number as well, I beg your pardon. If anyone has all of these pieces of information and they put it into our site, they're likely to get the loan. Remember, it's a unique identifier. Unless someone's identity has been completely stolen, it's pretty difficult to move on if you don't have these things. Now, remember what I was saying to Martha just now. At the end of that process, we ask the institution to take responsibility for the students, say these are our students. The students themselves and all their data is preloaded into our system. So when the student goes into the system, all that information is cross-checked against the database that we've already received from the institution. So it is almost impossible to be a ghost and get this loan. Almost impossible. Now, there are other ways in which things can be done. Systems can be hacked. People can fiddle with numbers. They can tell a lie here and there. But generally, they will eventually get caught. The one thing that you cannot do with this loan is apply under a false pretext. We will go after people who do that, and it is imprisonable if they're prosecuted. We don't go after people for owing us money. We don't go after people for not paying back, because the employers are the ones who are charged to pay back. But we will go after people who are fraudulent around this, and we'll go after them hard, because this is taxpayers' money, and the money is here to serve the people who really need it, not fraudsters.
Okay. You made mention of the fact that that's taxpayers' money, and the money must be accounted for. And I remember, I always make reference to the past conversation because, again...
Please do. Don't apologize for that.
All right. So you made mention of the fact that that's taxpayers' money and it must be accounted for. And I remember vividly the last question, I asked a question at that time. How do you plan on getting the monies back? Because this is sustainability again. I made mention of the fact that this has been done previously in previous administrations, and the reason that it didn't continue was because there was a lag in the payment plan. Say out of all the amounts of money that was disbursed, it was only 16% of that amount that was recovered by the government. How do you plan on getting these monies back? That's one-sided question. Secondly, we made mention of the fact that if those students don't get a job, then they can pay Nelfund back their money. Because if you give them the monies to go to school, it's expected that after school, they should be gainfully employed and then be able to pay back the money to Nelfund. So I saw that you had some sort of, should I say liaising with some organizations for Nelfund to provide jobs for some of the students. Did we get that correctly? Is it actually happening, or is just speculation in the social space?
Thank you, Martha. So you make a very good point about getting the money back. Let me tell you, it's extremely important that those who take this loan somehow pay it back. The reason it's important is, as you say, for sustainability. So you go to school, you get a loan from Nelfund, which is interest-free. You don't have a tenor on it, so you pay it back 10% of your salary when you get a job, but it's the employer that pays the 10% back, not even the student, unless they're self-employed. Of course, if you choose to pay it back yourself, you can. You can say, I'm liquidating this loan because I have the money to do it. And you can start paying back anytime you like. At the moment, you don't have to pay back until 2 years after the completion of NYSC, only if you have a job. It is important that people pay this loan back. However, I will tell you something. We would be foolish. We would be completely foolish if we were to think that it is from the repayments that we're going to make this sustainable. The president has been very clever in setting up this scheme. What he's done is that he said that the funds, so the bill he sent to the National Assembly, which was signed off on the 14th of April 2024, what that bill did was which is now an act, is that it basically says that the fund can invest the monies that we receive. That means that we get bulk money, we invest it, we get income of that investment. So that helps alleviate that. The second thing that His Excellency President Tinubu did when he put this together was that he effectively said we're allowed to receive donations and grants from interested parties. This is extremely clever because there are lots of people who are already supporting education in this country, privately, out of pocket. So if we have a platform that's true, a platform that's effective, a platform that's efficient, and above all, a platform that's transparent and has good governance around it, it means that this scheme has the potential to attract a lot of investment, if you like, a lot of donations, a lot of grants, a lot of goodwill. We're saying to people, look, if you're supporting people at the moment, eventually you can support people through the Nelfund platform. You can choose to support the children of the orphans, for example, who are in tertiary education. You can choose to support people who are disabled. You can choose to support people who have hit one misfortune or the other. So this is a platform. It's not entirely dependent on repayment. However, repayment is important, and I urge anyone who's benefited from this to make sure that they carry out their civic duty and repay the loan as and when. And I encourage companies that employ people who have benefited from this loan and are working for them and then bringing value to their companies to make that deduction and pay back.
All right. You've made a lot of salient points. I do appreciate you for that. Right. If you look at the investigation that was launched by the House of Representatives, especially in the Southeast, 2 months later, now we've not really seen anything that's happened. What's been the update from that investigation from the House of Reps from the situation that happened with schools in the southeastern region of Nigeria?
Thank you. So we haven't been involved in that investigation. We've not been invited for any investigation to come and talk about applications from the Southeast. I can't comment on where that investigation is, but I welcome it. I think it's important for the House of Representatives, for the Senate, for the investigative agencies, for anybody who has a question in their mind or have received petitions, that they must be investigated to the fullest. Now, what I will tell you is that the Southeast has had low application rates.
Okay.
The reason for that is that the attitude to loans from the Southeast is different to attitudes to loans from the South-South. It's different to attitudes to loans from the Southwest or from the northern part of the country. Everybody has a different approach to loans, number one. Number two, if you look at the wealth disparity between states in this country, you know, you take a Delta state and then you take a Yobe state, okay, and you look at the wealth disparity between both, you're going to have, you know, more development, for example, in Port Harcourt, in River State, or in Asaba, in Delta State. Yeah. You're going to have, you know, more wealth floating around. The state governments have more money. And some of that money goes towards investment in the state, in other words, job creation. It puts more money in the pockets of the people in those states. When you look at some other states, Ekiti, Yobe, they're not necessarily, the governments in those states don't necessarily have enough money. So their support of students is a little bit lower. The jobs in those states are a little bit lower, so the parents perhaps may not have as much money as, you know, people in the oil producing areas. So I've talked about the attitude towards loans. I've talked about the disposable income disparity across the country, amongst other things. You know, there are religious views on taking loans, all sorts of things go into the mix. We will never have equity in this country in terms of the uptake of loans. What we must do is have equity in the opportunity for people to leverage this opportunity.
So what then happens to schools that are receiving school fees from the student and also receiving some of this payment from Nelfund? Because that's some of the challenges that some of the students have raised. And what is, you've said you don't interfere with students basically, but how does schools who basically are involved in these irregularities, how do they get to pay back this money and how are they punished? Okay,
so again, let's be careful with using words like irregularities. Let's be careful with talking about punishment. We're not a punishing agency. Look, we're here to give lifelines to people who need loans. Unfortunately, some people apply late for those loans. If you apply late for the loan, either because you were waiting to see whether it's real or not, or because you just were not aware of it, if you've applied late, but the school is saying, if you don't pay by tomorrow, you can't start, you have to pay. You have to pay your fees to access the institution. If you have applied and we haven't finished processing, let's say you applied last week and you're starting tomorrow and you have to pay to go and register, you pay. However, when it's time for us to pay the schools on your behalf, because you've applied for the loan and you've been found to be eligible, we will pay. This means that the school has a double payment, one from you, one from Nelfund on your behalf. It is important that the schools refund the money to the individuals who have paid them, so they're not holding a double payment. The schools are not allowed to hold the money till the next session, because the next session the student's going to apply for a loan again, most likely. So the students or their parents, whoever's made the payment, must be refunded. Now, remember, this is new to the institutions. It's new to all of us. Okay, schools don't necessarily have a process where they automatically say, oh, when somebody pays double, we'll pay it back. It's the first time this is happening. There are logistics costs, there are administrative costs, there are charges that the schools have to face. All of this has to be accounted for somewhere. Otherwise, we're asking people to do things, you know, and to misbehave. And then that will create investigation or irregularities. So, if there's a double payment, the school must refund to the student. That's the first course of action. If they don't do that, the student will be distressed, or the parents will be distressed. It triggers all sorts of things. It triggers petitions, it triggers investigations, especially if it's wholesale. Wholesale non-refund is attracting a lot of attention from the investigative agencies. So I encourage people to ensure that they get into school. If they haven't received their loan, pay, okay? Because you have to start school. We're trying to work with the schools to see what we can work out, but we cannot guarantee we're going to give somebody a loan before we've processed it. So we can't even guarantee the school that they're going to get the money. So let's just do the right thing. If it's possible, and it's a small number, make sure you get onto the ladder of education. We will do everything we can to make sure that that payment comes. At the moment, one of the requirements we have is matriculation number when you are applying for the loan.
Okay.
When you're starting in the school, you haven't matriculated, so you don't have matriculation number. So what we've done is we've asked the schools to relax, or we've relaxed our position on that and said to the schools and to our own systems that if you don't have a matriculation number, you can use your JAM registration number for that part of it. But the refund issue will always be there.
All right, we're way past the half of the hour already, and we have been with the MD of Nelfund, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, who has been helping us with a few clarifications on the operations of Nelfund. We'll go on a very quick break, and when we get back, we'll keep up the conversation. Please stay with us. All right, the question. Now, a lot of these videos have been online, circulated online, talking about how Nelfund has disbursed funds and how the president has helped, and one constant name there is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Thank you for helping us and all of that. Now, of course, critics will definitely do what critics will do, which they warn about politicization of the entire fund. Now, time and again, we have seen when the president speaks about Nelfund, he speaks about it from an accomplishment point of view. This is what I have done, my administration has done. If the president was able to do this, this is one of the things that characterizes the success of my organization. This is what the president says, or not just the president, many other people, you know, who is aware of what Nelfund does. Now, do you have any structure in place to safeguard against the politicization of Nelfund? Okay,
so first of all, let me confirm that I give credit to this program and this scheme to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This was his concept. Okay. This is his view. This was an act of courage on his part. Certainly. Remember, he's a democratically elected president. So people voted for him because of his policies. The truth about it is that he can get into office and decide not to do what he said he was going to tell people to do. The reason you're seeing people being so grateful is because this is a promise kept by a president who made the promise during the campaign. I'll say something else to you. The fruits of this initiative, even though it's expensive and a huge investment on the part of the administration, may not be seen for 100 years. The true fruits may not be seen for 100 years. Today you're hearing people talking about a lifeline for me, lifeline for me. There are benefits for the generations coming after these people. There are benefits for this nation in terms of making it competitive. I make no apologies for them or for myself for accrediting and giving the credit for this policy to the president. Okay. Because I think it's a courageous move on his part. So, moving on from there, you talked about the politicization of this process. The Nelfund scheme, the Nelfund portal, www.nelf.gov.ng, does not recognize whether you're fair-skinned, dark-skinned, Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, Ibibio, Efik, Kalabari. It doesn't, Fulani, it doesn't recognize any of that. It doesn't, got news for you. It doesn't know whether you're PDP or APC or any other party. It doesn't know, okay? People who are applying for this loan, many of them didn't vote for this administration. It doesn't matter. The president at no stage has said, oh, this is a loan for APC supporters. It's never been said. And it will never be said. Okay. He says, I want Nigerians to have access to education. So there's no politicization. There's no discrimination. There's no bias. There's even no quota. Okay. The North is receiving the large bulk of the funds that we're disbursing. The reason is because they've gotten up and said, look, we want this, and we're going to go for this, and we're going to organize ourselves to get this. It's very pleasing for everybody, including the president, that those who want it are getting it. Those who want it are applying for it. There's no politicization. It will never be politicized. And I'll tell you, as time goes on, you'll see the governance change around this. And it will move away from being too government to being less government. Government will always be there because it's a welfareist program. But as I said earlier, there will be other investors, other donors, other grantees or grantors who want to invest or put money into this. Okay. So, you know, there's no politicization. It's not ageist. Well, it is a little bit because we're not giving loans to people who are over 80 at the moment. so it's a bit ageist. But, you know, it's not sexist, it's not tribalist, it's not racist, but you have to be Nigerian to get this loan. Oh. You have to be Nigerian. So that's a discriminatory move.
She talked about structure, basically. Now, this administration brought in this initiative.
Yeah.
I've seen various times where one administration comes on board and we see beautiful initiatives. Sometimes they start this initiative, but after the administration is over, that initiative is being put to rest.
Down the drain.
Now, Nelfund is here, which is an initiative of this administration. It's a government initiative. Now, of course, it mentioned that maybe some NGOs, some investors will come on board. But what is the guarantee that after this administration, that Nelfund will stand and remain to function effectively?
Sorry, especially because it is tagged the initiative of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Renewed over the agenda.
Okay, all right. So, NYSC, is it still here?
It is.
When was it NYSC launched?
But it was not tagged after a particular person.
People will tag things as they see fit. Today, that's what it's tagged. But if you read the act, it doesn't mention the president, other than his signature at the bottom of it. Okay. The truth about it is politicians will always be politicians. If you name a road after me today, somebody who comes back tomorrow will change the name of the road to somebody else they like. What I will tell you is that the way that this is going to be set up, the way this is going to be sustainable, is that we're going to enshrine it in the law in a way that makes it impossible for somebody, because they don't like the tag, to take this great initiative away from ordinary Nigerians. I think you should wait to see how that will unfold. But there are many things in this country, many initiatives in this country, some of them even government, that haven't gone away because the people are so bought into it. They're so, you know, invested in it, that anybody who comes to take it away will be asking for trouble. This scheme, by the time this administration finishes, first and or second term, the numbers of beneficiaries will be so high and so large that anybody who comes and tries to kill this scheme will be asking for political trouble. This is a scheme for Nigerians. It's not a scheme, you know, President Bola Tinubu has educated his children. He doesn't need this, okay? But of course, it's important to recognize the people who bring things in. We had Obamacare in the US. Yes, somebody came and crushed that. But the way we will structure this is such that it will be very difficult for somebody to come and take it away. Other political leaders in the future can come and bring their own initiatives in other areas. And that's how nations are built. One person comes, gives us this. Another person comes later, gives us something else. That's the way nations are built. We need to walk away from this childish approach of, you know, I don't like that guy, you know, because he wasn't, you know, in the same party of me, so I'm going to crush what the people are benefiting from. We will make sure that this thing is embedded in Nigerian society in whatever way it takes. I've spoken to the president about this myself, and he's 100% focused on the fact that this must outlive the administration, must outlive me, must outlive you. This is something, this is a gift for the future of Nigerians. And it doesn't matter what people tag it. The people you saw speaking earlier, they see it as a lifeline, and they associate it with the person who brought the initiative. You can't stop them from doing that. I will thank whomsoever I want to thank for whatever I receive in life. That's just the way it is.
Well, that's a bit tricky again, because when we say that they will tag it however they want to tag it, right? They can do what they want to do. But you see, the public space is particular about the patterns of tags that is being done, especially when it comes to Nelfund. And we're having this conversation not to antagonize the president or not to antagonize Nelfund, but just so that we're clear about the operational policies of Nelfund. So much so that when someone else comes in there, it doesn't look as if the person experiences an antagonism because they are not the president. So it's advisable that people get easy with tagging it to the president. Yes, he started the initiative. Yes, he has been able to bring about setting development and setting initiations of policies that would make Nelfund outlive him and outlive everybody else. But also those tags are super important that they're cleared out in the social space, particularly because people will say what people will say, just like you said. Now, next, let's talk about the job creations, which we spoke about earlier. There was a report on the social space that said Nelfund can now help with providing jobs for some of the students that access the loan and we want to pay back, but they don't have jobs. Is that a very verified information, or is just speculations?
Okay, before we go to that, I want to go back to this tagging.
Okay.
There are many things in this country that are tagged. Okay. Have you heard of Keke Napep?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Has its name been changed?
No.
Okay. There are many things that are tagged in this country and associated with one scheme, one political leader or the other. Tagging is not a problem, even in the social space. People will tag things whatever they want to tag it. That same Keke Marna Pep, I think I've heard it called Keke Marwa.
Yes.
Right? So people will tag, okay? That's just the way branding works. However, you're not going to say you're not going to get into the tricycles because it's named after somebody or because it's got somebody's sticker on it.
Yeah.
So let's just be clear. This is too serious a conversation for us to trivialize it by saying, oh, because it's named this person, someone's going to be antagonized. The intention of the political leader must be looked at. It isn't something that he's using to win votes. There are much easier ways of winning votes than creating a long-term program like this. So to your question around jobs, you wanted to know whether, what the job creation position is.
Absolutely.
Okay. So a couple of things. First of all, if you educate your people and you get them ready for the world of work, it will attract foreign investors because they can employ the human capacity, because that human capacity has the right human capital or capacity built into them to be able to do the work. Local investors will be encouraged because if you want to start a business today and you need to employ 5 people and you interview 25 people and none of them are up to the task, you're not going to start that business because your business is going to be dependent on people. We're getting our people ready to be able to enter the world of work properly. It's going to make us globally competitive. It's going to make us locally competitive. That's the first thing. The second thing is this scheme is going to give people the confidence to go and start their own businesses. So there's going to be the creation of small and medium enterprises because people suddenly can do a little bit of accounting, they can do a little bit of marketing themselves because they've been able to complete and get an education. Remember, we're competing globally. So already, if we carry this scheme on for long enough, people will be uplifted from the bottom, move up the pyramid of life, and will be able to create work. The other thing that we must do as Nelfund is we must connect people to the jobs. So as these jobs are being created, we as Nelfund have to be able to say to the creators of the jobs, or the people who are in the companies, that, look, we've got a graduate here, or somebody who's acquired a skill, because we do skills acquisition as well, or we will be, to the jobs. So what we were referring to is we're creating a job portal where we're going to try to attract as many employers to it as possible and attract as many job seekers to it as possible so we can do that match. That's really what we're alluding to. And that's an area we're going to look at. But I can tell you for sure, if this scheme carries on the way we're proposing that it goes on, more jobs will be created by default.
All right, conclusively, sir, and as a way of reiteration, the portal for Nelfund is open right now for 25-26 academic section.
Yes, it is.
And how do students get to apply for this?
Victor, thank you. So if they go to the portal, which is www.nelf.gov.ng, if they go to that portal, they need to establish using by providing some details, their name, their date of birth. They need to provide their matriculation number. They need to provide their JAM registration number. They need to provide their NIN. They need at some point after that to provide their BVN and their account number. As long as the schools have uploaded the details, that match will happen. Their name and date of birth confirms who they are. That match will happen. If they go to that portal and they provide all that information, they will be able to progress and apply for the loan, unless the school hasn't uploaded the information. If the school has not uploaded the information, or the information they've uploaded differs from what you're entering, it's like going to an ATM machine and putting your 3-digit PIN in. If it's different to what the machine has, you're not going anywhere. So it's kind of dependent on the school, as well as it is dependent on us to do that. When they access the portal, by the way, there's an instantaneous check on their NIN with NIMSI. Thank God for NIMSI, because NIMSI has provided a fantastic platform for us. There's an instantaneous check with JAM. We thank God for JAM, because JAM has got a fantastic database that we can also cross-check. And BVN as well. So these are instantaneous checks that give an electronic handshake and tell us that this person is the same person that's applying. Once they've applied, or once they've got past that stage, they see their data from their school, their name, their course, their faculty, their course level, the cost of the course, the session they're in. Once they identify that that's all correct, and they click apply, they automatically get a congratulations, you have successfully applied. They then have the next step, which is to apply for the upkeep, which is the monthly payment that we make to them. Okay. They can then apply for that. That's optional. But they have to apply for the first one, the institutional fee, before they apply for the upkeep. Okay. Once they've applied for that, they're good. But we've opened the portal now. A lot of institutions are starting to load the data. Anybody who goes to that portal today and can't get through, it's probably because the institution hasn't uploaded the data yet. Okay. We encourage people to try now, and if they can't apply, if it says missing information, they should go to the institution and say, please upload my data, or please, these are the numbers I provided in the application. Do they match with the ones that the institution has uploaded? That way, the problem can be solved.
Okay.
Oh, thank you, sir.
It's almost past the hour already, and there's still so many questions we want to ask.
Surely.
But if they have, everyone has access to the website, some of these questions will be clarified, yes?
On the website?
Yes.
I hope so, yes. I think what we do is, because, there are new questions every day. Okay. Some of these questions will be clarified. One of the reasons I'm here is to hear the new questions. And of course, then we have to go back to the ranch and make sure that they upload the questions that you asked. We're going to share this. I mean, if you, I guess people are watching, and I imagine that you're going to replay this. So,
certainly.
My answers, will, for some people, will come from this program.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you to everyone who has been a part of the program this morning. It's been an amazing time. We have been speaking with the MD of Nelfund, Mr. Akintunde Sawyer, who has helped us, dissect some of the issues that we've had misconceptions about when it comes to Nelfund. We will be closing out now with Victor. And before we go, we'll also remind you that we are active across social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, which is now X, and on TikTok. It is at Rapid TV. Of course, he made mention of a replay which happens on YouTube. So yes, you can get your hands on this video on YouTube at Official Rapid TV. And then we have a website that allows you to join all of our programs live here in the studio, www.rbnradiotv.com. Once again, my name is Martha Alu.
And of course, my name is Victor. Okay, see you tomorrow.